And so we have a special guest. If you know the brother is, I was gonna say if you're in Pittsburgh, you know him, but you was on Good Morning America. You know what I'm saying? So the brother is, really has such a powerful story that we are familiar with in Pittsburgh because it happened in Pittsburgh and you're from Pittsburgh. But the brother's been able to tell his story all over the world, and the stars aligned. You happen to be in Pittsburgh. It's kind of rare. And we texted like 2 days ago, and now you're here on our show. So can you just introduce yourself and just tell a little bit of people about your story and kind of how we ended up in this place we are right now?
Absolutely, man. First of all, thank y'all for having me. This is like my family here.
Absolutely.
And One Hood has supported me from the beginning. And I remember you, Jasiri, just taking my story with you everywhere you were traveling before it became okay to support, and normal for people to support victims of police shootings. I remember a lot of people were afraid.
True.
Yeah, there were people who protested and rallied with me who were afraid they were going to lose their jobs, actually, and so it's like a full circle moment, to be here to have this conversation with y'all today. So
absolutely.
Yeah, man. I'm from Pittsburgh, and when I was 19 years old, I was shot 5 times by a Pittsburgh police officer during what they call a routine traffic stop, which, what is routine about a traffic stop, right?
Right.
We know the officers were fishing. They were, pulling over as many black people as they could pull over that day. They actually ran over 400 plates.
Wow.
During the shift from 3 to 11, and I was shot around 9 p.m. And as a result of that shooting, I ended up paralyzed. I woke up in the hospital. I was actually arraigned from a hospital bed.
That's crazy.
And I was facing time in prison. And so if you can imagine me waking up, a doctor came into my room and said, we have good news and we have bad news. The good news is you're going to survive. The bad news is you will never walk again. I had no, context of like time. So it felt like I just dozed off and woke up with these police officers taking photos of me, and as I was being arraigned, and that was the beginning of my journey, through activism, becoming a community leader, and then my journey toward venture capitalism and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Author now.
Author.
You just dropped the book, Unspeakable Hope.
Yes, sir.
Which you were on that press tour. Wasn't you with like Michael Strahan or something? Didn't you do something?
Yeah.
No, I think it's amazing. Like you said, like I remember hearing about, I didn't know that the police were doing one of those sweeps where they were just stopping everybody that night.
Oh yeah. It came out, in my trial, actually.
Wow.
So there's a lot of information that people don't know.
Right.
That came, like the officers actually testified that they were just running plates and trying to stop people. And they ran over 400 plates because we had their MDT, log and everything like that. And it's a practice called fishing, and it's relatively normal within the police department to fish, and it's incentivized, right? Because the more arrests you make, the more likelihood you have of being promoted.
Yeah,
so it's a structural problem. When I was shot, when you watch the video, I drove off, and a lot of people, even black people in Pittsburgh, they had issues with that. So we have to go back to that moment.
Yes.
I reached out to the Urban League, NAACP, Victims for Violent Crimes. None of the black organizations supported me.
I didn't know that.
Miss Connie supported me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But the Urban League was like, kind of like, yo, but why'd you pull off? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I just got shot. Like,
Yeah.
Well, so the officer jumped in my car.
right.
They were trying to pull me out of the
window.
car.
Out of the window.
Yeah.
And I drove off, and then I was shot, right? While I was driving off. So that was an issue, right? And so in the beginning, it was people like Miss Connie. It was individuals, right? Jasiri and One Hood, right? The only groups that supported me, right, were the Quakers.
Wow.
Like the Amish people?
Yeah, the Quakers. Yeah. Yeah, like religiously. Yeah.
Are there a difference between Amish and Quakers?
Yes.
I did not know that.
All Quakers aren't Amish.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So
Continue. I didn't know.
So they have the Pittsburgh Friends meeing.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was the Quakers and the Nation of Islam.
Yeah. That's a crazy mix.
Those were the
Oatmeal and bean pies.
right? So it's like groups. Those were the only two groups that were just like, yo, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Most of the black-led organizations, right, were very elitist.
True.
Toward me, right? Again, this is before BLM blew up.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was really hard for me to get support. So after my civil trial, which was a hung jury, there was one of the white jurors basically said she refused to see this officer did any harm to me.
That's crazy.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, after like we crushed them.
Yeah.
Like we were in our room every day high-fiving, catching them in lies. And I mean, our cross-examinations of them, oh my goodness. It was like, we destroyed them. And so from my perspective, I was like, you know, I tried to be perfect. I proved through not only court but public opinion that I didn't deserve what happened to me, even though I shouldn't have had to prove that, right?
Yeah.
But I felt for a long time I had to prove to society that I was a good person. Otherwise, they justified, right? Because if you're not the perfect victim, then they're like, well, you have a juvenile record and, you know, your father was incarcerated and maybe you did deserve to be shot, right? That and unfortunately, there's even some black folks who would think like that. You know what I'm saying?
True. Sadly.
And so I did all these things to make it to this moment to like have a hung jury, and I was defeated. And so I remember calling my attorney, Freddie Rabner, and so this is what happened. There was a guy who murdered a cop in New Kensington. Y'all remember that?
When was this?
I don't remember this.
This was maybe 2018.
No, I don't remember this at all.
So there's a guy, he murdered a cop in New Kensington. And I remember watching it on the news, and I called, maybe 2017, and I called my attorney and said, Freddie, my friends are really inspired by what happened out in New Kensington. You know, how could you protect me if I murdered a police officer or if I was associated with it? And he's like, Leon, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what, you know? And,
wow.
And he's like, and I'm like, bro, like, I don't believe in justice. I'm never going to get justice.
Yeah.
They already took my ability to walk. Like, you know, I already don't want to live. Like, what's up? Like, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, Leon, you're like Dr. King. I'm like, bro, I don't give a about Dr. King.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? And so he's trying to talk me down. And so he says to me, yo, your mentor in California, he keep asking you to come to California. Just go to California. And, like, we'll have this conversation when you come back. And so I was like, all right, cool. That's very logical.
Who's the mentor in California?
Stephen DeBerry.
Okay.
Right? And so I say, cool, I'm going to go to California, but if I feel the way I feel, like, it's on. You know what I mean? It's like, it's going up, right? And so I remember hitting up Steve and booked my flight. So I flew to San Francisco. I remember being on the plane. I had Closer on repeat. by
Guapole, yeah, that's my joint. I ain't gonna front.
And it was just on repeat, bro. And I'm just like going through it on the plane. And so I landed in San Francisco. And Steve is like, yo, I'm busy. You know what I mean? Here's the, the address to the house you'll be staying at. There's a car in the garage. Make yourself at home. You can take the car and things like that. And so, I had to download an app to open up the door. And it was a beautiful house. There was like a S550 in the garage.
Wow.
The keys was in the drawer in the kitchen. I'm like, texting him like, yo, you sure I could drive this car? You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, And so Steven ended up, inviting people over to the house I was staying at, maybe about 25 people. And we got food and drinks, and we just having a great time, just chopping it up, vibing. And Steven hits the glass, and he's like, hey, I want to get everybody's attention. And he says, do y'all know why y'all here? And I'm looking around like, I don't know, why am I here, And he goes, y'all are here to meet Leon. So I'm looking like, why are they here to meet me? And he begins to tell my story, and he gets emotional while he's telling my story.
Wow.
What I didn't realize was these were a bunch of his friends who he was talking to about police brutality, and a couple of them were like, yo, man, you going too hard on Facebook about the police brutality. And he made it real for them. So they already had spent a few hours with me.
Yeah.
They took a liking to me. And then he drops the bomb on them that Leon was shot by a police officer.
Wow.
So now they're like, how can this happen? And he's like, I've been telling y'all this been happening. You know what I mean? And what I didn't realize is these were a lot of venture capitalists, people from Facebook and all these different tech companies.
Yeah.
And I tell this story, in my book, but one guy, Brad, we were talking, and because of my story, he was very vulnerable with me about things he was experiencing. And Steve comes up to me and is like, yeah, Brad just bought United Airlines.
Wow.
And he goes, well, I acquired it.
That's deep.
So these are the type of people that was in the space. And, I would, begin to have different discussions with Steve about, he's like, yo, what's going on with your case? And I'm telling him, and he's like, yo, settle, civil trials about money. This officer's not going to jail, you know what I'm saying? And if you go to trial again, even if you win, they're going to appeal it, and you could be fighting for another.
You're going to be going on and on and
3 to 5 years. And he was like, man, you deserve to live your life. And, I told him what they were offering. And he was like, yo, just take it. You know what I'm saying? And we'll help you invest, and whatever you want to accomplish in life, we got you. Like, you got us. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it was that moment I text my attorneys. I said, yo, just settle the case.